Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Chris. I'm back with part two of the running shift, and I wanted to continue this discussion. It's not live, obviously. I'm recording it and then I'll upload it. But you remember, I just posted the video for part one, which was the running shift is Nike losing ground. And in that post, I used the Hoka Clifton, Nike Pegasus, Brooks Ghost, and On Cloud 5. Now, Hoka Clifton and On Cloud 5 are very specific searches, so the numbers are probably going to be smaller than Nike Pegasus, where you have a range of Pegasus shoes, which will obviously give Nike the greater advantage there. Same thing is with Brooks Ghost. There's a range of Brooks Ghost. There's only one On Cloud 5. The 5 may come in different colors, but there's no winterized version of it, etc. So the numbers are going to be different. But the fact that in the first one, On showed the biggest growth at 400% growth, it kind of confirmed a lot of what many people were saying about On running. However, let's go to part two because I keep Nike as my constant, and I use different variables here, and the variables here are going to be the ASICS Gel Kayano. Of course, the Nike Pegasus stays. It's going to be the New Balance Fresh Foam and Adidas UltraBoost. And there's a reason I chose to do this, and it's because Gel Kayano has a range of different sneakers underneath that umbrella. Same thing with Fresh Foam. Almost 10 of New Balance's sneakers are called Fresh Foam 880, Fresh Foam 1080, Fresh Foam, and there's a lot within that brand. So we get a really good comparison to the Pegasus. So let's get to the article. So is Nike losing ground? New Balance, Adidas, and ASICS. In part one of the series, I stated an important point on the data, and I said this in part one. The charts that I'm creating use third-party sales data with keywords brand plus style plus men. There's an overlap in the product as sold listings will often carry other attributes. Now, remember, when you're looking these things up, there could be a t-shirt stuck in there and all kinds of different things. Those are just variables that you're going to have. And because people like to connect to the best-selling item, you may find a Brooks listing with Nike in the title. It shouldn't be that way, but when you're using a platform like eBay to do research, you will find these type of things happening. The keywords are broad, which caters to Nike. Now, this was for the first one, since they produce over 6 different versions of their Pegasus running shoes. But the same goes for other brands as different iterations of the styles exist. In the first one, I did not account for those adjustments. So when you click on it and you go to the first article, both will be in the description. You can go down there, click through and read the article or look at the video. It's up to you. I didn't account for that in the first one because of the Hoka Clifton and the On Cloud 5. Those two are so specific that they don't have as broad of a selection of shoes underneath those umbrellas. That doesn't mean that the value of the data is less relevant. It's still just as good. Now, this upcoming chart here that I'm getting ready to present to you is going to look way out of whack. And it will undoubtedly raise eyebrows. Where Nike completely dominated part one, using the keywords Nike Pegasus, men, Adidas and New Balance add a completely different layer to the discussion. And if I wanted to ask you guys before you go into this and look at it, which one do you think would have the most growth and which one of the brands would sell the most of the ASICS Gel Kayano, Nike Pegasus, New Balance Fresh Foam, and the Adidas UltraBoost? Which one? What do you think? So the question has to be whether the keywords Fresh Foam and UltraBoost are equivalent to Nike Pegasus. Now, I asked that question in the post, and I say, yes, they are equivalent in search. I'm not saying that they're equivalent in usage, style, performance, things like that. I'm saying in search, in doing the research on these 3 different brands, and I'm leaving ASICS like in the dust right now, but if you see the chart that's over here to my side, you see why I'm doing that. ASICS is a factor. ASICS is considerable. If I go over to the old chart, ASICS is comparable to On and Hoka and Brooks. So ASICS is a factor. It's just that on this list, with Nike Pegasus, New Balance Fresh Foam, and Adidas UltraBoost, man, this gets really interesting. So let's look at the chart. And here you have the chart. And hopefully you can see this here, but you can see clearly that the best selling shoe is under the Adidas UltraBoost line. But here's the interesting thing. When you look at that, there's so many different shoes for UltraBoost. And we know for a fact that unlike the New Balance Fresh Foam, UltraBoost actually is a sneaker culture shoe. It crosses over into that segment. So it kind of makes sense that Adidas is the boss here. But, let's get back to the article. New Balance Fresh Foam changes the narrative. So we go from October 22 to October 23. You look at these numbers in your head, you make your own discussion as you listen to me read this article. Several comments on LinkedIn made it clear if I were to include New Balance, it would be a more disruptive force than On or Hoka. Looking solely at the chart that you see over here, that looks like an understatement. The year of not October, but January to October 2022, New Balance is at 21,000. And when we go back over here to the other side, the Hoka Clifton during that year was at 25,000. So New Balance and Hoka were neck and neck. On was at the bottom of the scale in 2022. But in 2023, we see On take off like a rocket. It goes to 15,000, right? And you also see that Hoka loses ground. And before I was saying that there was a push and pull between On and Hoka. Let me go back. So you look at New Balance and you see in the 2023 data, New Balance doubles to 42,000 according to the way I set up those keywords. Adidas stays flat. Nike dropped. So before I said there was a push and pull between On and Hoka, New Balance is definitely in the mix. But that doesn't get to the heart of it. Remember, on part one, I actually went down and gave you these deeper insights. You're going to have to go and look at these insights yourself. But this is really going to get interesting. Let's keep going. So New Balance plus Fresh Foam as the keyword showed 100% growth year over year. Adidas plus UltraBoost appears to be the king, right? At 54,735 in 2022 and 53,000 in 2023, but not really. It's hard not to notice this growth for New Balance. And it's very similar to On Running. And I initially, like I said, thought On was pulling from Hoka's consumer base when I go backwards again, where Hoka dropped and On increased by, considerable amount. New Balance actually appears to pull away from every brand. But like this data that you're looking at for Adidas UltraBoost, that's not really the case. And I hate to slow down, and I know because it's better for me to keep talking fast because it keeps you engaged, but just stay with me. Expectations need to be tempered. In part one, On Running and Hoka were isolated styles. Hoka Clifton doesn't have any way to be measured broadly. So Hoka's numbers are going to be lower. I would have to put in Hoka plus running as my keywords to do a search that makes it as equal to the rest of the brands. But there's no way I can really do that and keep this kind of level. So I'm sticking with the Hoka Clifton, but there's no way to do that broadly. On Running does have the ability to be measured broadly. So on the first chart, I only did On Cloud 5, right? Well, here's the thing. When I added that 5, it made that growth specific. If I use the broader keywords, On Running plus Cloud, that information delivers 27,030 pairs sold in 2023. And this is where it gets interesting. I made a statement in the previous article on the running shift, And I said that expanded distribution would be problematic for On. So when we go back to this chart and we see 3,000 all the way to 15,000 for On, we know that On has expanded distribution. So using the keywords On running plus cloud, removing that 5, cloud covers all of On's products, much in the way that Pegasus talks about all of the Pegasus, Kayano talks about Kayano 31 or 32 or whatever, and Fresh Foam covers 880, 1080, and all of these different Fresh Foams. On running plus cloud in 2022 had 36,774 pairs sold at an average price of $91.92. In 2022, $36,091.92 average price. In 2023, On Running Plus Cloud has an average price of $89.33. So I take this big broader set and I say keywords On Running Plus Cloud, and cloud models had a 25% drop in third-party sales and a decrease in average sold price. How can this list be so positive and this list, or this information I'm giving you about On, which isn't even about this chart that you're looking at to my side, be so negative? How can that happen? And if I'm saying that Adidas isn't the king, although it's the biggest selling model, the Adidas UltraBoost, for 2022 and 2023, if I'm saying it's not the king based on this chart, it feels kind of contradictory, doesn't it? Well, this is what has to happen. These are the detailed breakdowns of each one to add even more food for thought when you start discussing running. We need nuance. Because we don't have point of sales data from Foot Locker and all these different places, it's very hard for us to make an argument or a discussion for what exactly is happening in the running shoe market. People are generally just making guesses based on the same thing that I do, which is to visually look at what people are wearing and to look at sales on certain stores where you can get data from them. But here is the interesting thing. When we go back up here and we open this window up, as a matter of fact, I'm going to open the image in a new tab and detach it, right? And then I'm going to pull this back and just pull this down so I can continue to read. And you guys can stay with me without moving back and forth. I want you to be able to see these insights. So in 2022, the Gel Kayano, you see 11,000 sales, which is strong for the ASICS Gel Kayano, but you see a decrease in 2023. ASICS does not have expanded distribution. You really can only find ASICS at specialty retail shops in most instances, specifically the Gel Kayano. But here's the interesting thing. $85.34 average sold price, $85.75. They went up slightly in average sold price, although they decreased in the amount that was sold. New Balance Fresh Foam is where I want to go because we saw what happened with Nike. We know it was 35 and then it dropped to 26,000, and we know that New Balance On are pulling from Nike. New Balance and On are pulling from everyone except for Adidas. And when you look at Adidas and like I said, you think it's the king of the hill, here's the thing. The Adidas UltraBoost is a $180, $190 shoe. The average sold price is $95.77 in 2022. And although you get 5 million sold and 54,000 pairs sold, when you scroll down here to 2023, the average price is $78.18. Although the UltraBoost sold more than any other brand in this chart, there is a problem for Adidas. Let's get back to the article. Expanded distribution as a harbinger. Adidas is in trouble. The UltraBoost in every form has an SRP of $180 plus. To see a reduction in the average sold price means the product is on deep promo. New Balance is the worst performing brand by average sold price. The worst performing brand year over year. The last few years, like Nike, New Balance focused on signing athletes and growing lifestyle. by the look of it, when you see 21,000 for fresh foam and then you see an increase to 42,000, that's a 100% increase. 100%. That doesn't make them the best or fastest growing brand. That still goes to On with that 400% increase from 3,000 to 15,000. But this is extremely impressive for New Balance in the fresh foam. But they are focused on signing athletes and growing lifestyle. You talking JJJ Jound or whatever it is, and ALD, and all of the different collabs that New Balance is doing. They are so focused on lifestyle and signing athletes, which are really un-New Balance things in the tradition and history of the brand. But it's helping them. And fresh foam tends to have a lower cost overall. So when it goes on promo and people are using arbitrage to sell it on third-party platforms, the price is going to be lower. But what we didn't look at here was the New Balance average price, $52.02. It is the worst performing product on this list. Either one, Running Shift 1 or this Running Shift 2. And then when you see in 2023, it's at $47.13. New Balance possibly increased distribution of their running models to offset the rise of On and Hoka. And while fresh foam tends to have more lower cost alternatives, an average sold price that goes from 52 to 47 is sacrificing margins for growth. Do you think that's sustainable? And here's the big question. Is On heading in a similar direction, especially because they don't have casual and lifestyle and other segments to lean upon? You have to remember that On doesn't sponsor soccer teams, or New Balance sponsors soccer players, baseball players. They have lifestyle. They have running. They are a broader company. They are more expansive in what they do. On is very limited in what they're doing. And we can immediately see with On in 2022, let's see, On Cloud, I think I mixed that up, actually. On Cloud 9946 is 2023. Yeah. So I put 2023 here. Disregard that. That's actually 2022. They were at $124 a pair at 3,000 pair. And then when I got down here to 2023, they were at 99. That was a steep drop. But remember, I also talked about the fact that here, if I take the broader On, the more shoes that enter the marketplace, On begins to drop in price. It's a complex discussion to have. Really, this is all surface material. This was not paid. It took a lot of time to sit down and pull this stuff together. But I thought it was worth looking at because there's this huge discussion on the fact that On is taking over. And I'm like, you have to be very careful when you make these kind of statements. Very careful. Because it's not necessarily that On is taking over. On is expanding distribution. Hoka is not. So Hoka is maintaining its margins. So let me go back over here. Hoka, 70.71 in 2022, 71.39 in 2023. They're going up in the average sold price, even in the aftermarket. Even as they add or lose sales, their price stays where it is and it's gone up. Expanded distribution is a harbinger for a product losing. You simply can't just begin to put a product everywhere. You have to be careful. You have to have a really thoughtful expansion process. If you don't, you could end up in a position where, although you're doing 54,000 shoes or 53,000 shoes in 2023, your average sold price goes from $95.77, which is 50% off retail, to 70% off retail at $78.18. expanded distribution is a harbinger. It's not, and it's a bad predictive kind of feature in this discussion. I'm trying to find the right words. I'm doing this in real time, no script written. So I may sound like I'm stammering a little bit, but I know what I'm saying, and I hope you get what I'm saying. I'm going to wrap it up. That was really long. And if you stayed this whole time, I appreciate you. It means you really like, a different form of content for your sneaker discussions. And hopefully you'll come back, you'll watch this video, you'll share it with people, and you'll use the information for whatever way you want to use it. Take the charts, use them the way you want. Just give credit back to the charts being created by Arch, and that's all I ask. I will see you guys on the next one. Leave questions in the comments if you want me to do more of this type of content. Of course, I'll still be doing the sneaker, videos and things like that, but I like this. I really like this. I wish I was in the classroom, to be honest. Go figure. But I'll see you guys on the next one. I hope everybody's doing great. New week. Let's get it started. No, never mind. Sorry about that. Peace.